the Loch-n-Load is a primary weapon for the demo man, or if you're a competitive demo, a secondary weapon. The Loch has gone from being bullshit overpowered to becoming the stock grenade launcher without rollers, but with the added benefit of fucking up Uncle Dane and his nieces and nephews whenever they decide to migrate to your server. This weapon has always been viewed as a crutch for bad demos, and that stereotype still applies today, even without the original 25% damage bonus that let you fucking one-shot light classes. I'm going to go over the stats of this extended crutch launcher and tell you how you should be fucking using it instead of how you are using it right now. If you have more self-awareness than Hermano Gonzalez 2004, you should be able to see that the first stat of the Loch-n-Load is that it has a plus 25% projectile speed bonus, meaning your pills have less arc and travel for longer distances than they do with stock, and you have to account for projectile drop significantly less. The only other grenade launcher with this kind of effect is the Iron Bomber, because the pills are rounder and have less tumble, or something like that, but it has to do with how the source engine handles airborne objects. The second upside is that the Loch-n-Load has a plus 20% damage bonus against buildings, meaning that this is one of the best weapons to use when dealing with one of Uncle Dane's Hellspawn, right next to the sticky bomb launcher and the direct hit. The next stat is that the Loch-n-Load has a minus 25% clip size, meaning you have 3 pills instead of 4, and in case you are wondering why this thing has 2 barrels and 3 pipes, the original version only had 2 pills and Valve never bothered to update the fucking model. The next penalty is that it has a minus 25% explosion radius, which means you cannot reliably use the Loch-n-Load against a crowd of enemies and expect the same results as with stock. The final downside, which is arguably the strongest penalty of the Loch-n-Load, is that the pipes fired from the lock shatter on impact with anything that is not a player or building. This means that you do not get rollers, an extremely valuable thing that every other grenade launcher has, and makes spamming out choke points significantly harder. So, now that you know the stats of this unregistered and illegally modified Hellspawn of an M79 and a China Lake, that will surely get the ATF to kick your door down and shoot your dog, how do you actually use it? There are a few different ways you can use the Loch-n-Load, with the intended use being kicking over an engineer's sandcastle. This is how it was designed, but nobody actually uses it this way, since most demos are sticky spammers anyways, so they will just sticky spam a nest out before the engineers can repair their buildings. Another way you can use the Loch-n-Load is to fight pyro spam, since pyros will have a significantly harder time trying to air blast your pills due to the faster projectile speed and them not being as used to it as they are to the stock pill speed. A third way you can use the Loch-n-Load is to be able to hit snipers that are hiding just out of reach of the stock grenade launcher, as well as hit them more reliably if you suck ass with pill aim. A fourth and final way you can use the Loch-n-Load is to literally just use it as you would with a stock grenade launcher, because you need a massive crutch to compensate for your bad aim with standard pills. Something to remember when using the Loch-n-Load is to adjust for movement less than you would if you were using the stock grenade launcher, as if you treat the pills like they are the stock grenades, you will end up missing most of, if not all of your shots. Now, you will need some loadouts to complement the crutch and load. Your options are fairly limited, and you have 3 choices for your secondary weapon slot, and 2 for your melee weapon. The first choice of secondary weapon you have is the sticky bomb launcher, which to the average demo main is actually their primary weapon, because sticky spam is effective as hell. The second option you have for your secondary slot is the charge and charge, due to the 50% fire resistance and 30% explosive resistance, making this a very solid choice if you are equipping the lock to deal with pyro spam. Plus the charge is a very effective tool to use when shit hits the fan and you get swarmed by like 4 pyros and a heavy. The third option for your secondary is the tide turner, which you do not use to survive pyro spam, but rather, you use it as a mobility tool to trim off at every fucking angled surface in the game. As for your melee options, the Scotsman's Skull Cutter is your only valid choice, since it is effectively a better version of stock, and it has an extended range and damage bonus. If you are seriously concerned about your speed with the Skull Cutter out, and don't care for the extended range, consider equipping the bottle or one of its reskins. If you are using the Tide Turner or Charge in Charge, The Claymore is also a valid choice considering that it was recently restored to its pre-meteor match state in the Jungle Inferno update. Thank fucking god. This is the correct way to use the Loch-n-Load. Now go out there and be the beach bully to all the engineers and pyros on the server.